Why don't you kick us off, man? Tell us about your business.
All right. So, I'll just give you the rundown. We bought our business in 21. I was telling you guys earlier, we bought it from a family friend. I went to high school with him, and I'd worked with his dad before, and so he kind of saw my work ethic and everything, and he kind of approached me out of the blue, and I hadn't really thought of running a business before, or much less owning one, and I had seen other people in our community that were business owners, and it's like, man, that's cool, or you see him and it's like, that guy's got a lot of money, he's a business owner. And so I kind of always, associated that with doing very well. But he approached me, and at the time, my wife and I were living in Nacogdoches. I was working at Louisiana Pacific in Carthage, and we were, 23 and 24, so we're at that age where it's like, let's just try it, see what happens. And we had to move back down here. I worked with him for a couple of months to learn the clients and, figure out all the routes and how to do everything. And then they wound up retiring and moving off to Fredericksburg to enjoy wine country, or Texas wine country anyway. But it was kind of tossed onto us. I didn't really have any kind of career ideas long term, and so it was one of those things. It's just like, let's just try it out and we'll see what happens. And whenever we bought the business, we came with all the equipment, and we had a client list already established of probably 50 clients. Commercial and residential. One of them was the contract with the city of Cleveland, and so that was a good one. That was that was almost like $50,000 a year, just that one alone. And so it was pretty good. We didn't really lose any clients or anything for first couple of months, and it worked out really well for us to get our feet wet.
No, you're good. So did you work for was it called Texas Select Lawncare before?
Yeah.
Did you work there?
I'd worked there. When we were in high school, I'd helped out with a couple of jobs here and there during the summertime. And it was just, like I said, we all had a really good relationship. We were all pretty close, and, all of our families knew each other. But yeah, I had a history with him, and I kind of knew how he liked things done, and so it just kind of all worked out pretty well.
So you were working somewhere else, and you quit your job to go work with him to learn it. So you weren't there.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it.
No, at the time though, I was working at in Carthage, and I think it was actually when he first brought it up. It was right before my wife and I got married. And we were over at their house, after we all got fitted for our suits and everything, just hanging out. And he was so nonchalant about it. I'll never forget it. Like, we were sitting there.
I was going to ask, what's that phone call go?
We were just sitting there drinking beer, just everybody kind of talking and hanging out. And he just kind of leans over to me and he was like, "Hey, so I might be selling this business, and you're one of my thoughts. What do you think about that?" I was like, I don't know, man. That's kind of a pretty out of the blue question, and had never really thought about it. But that whole next week is all I could think about. Man, I was YouTubing lawn care, trying to figure out how other companies are doing it, and just equipment, different stuff, hiring. Everything. And I brought it up to my wife, and we were both pretty hesitant at first because it's a big step, and. She had a good job, I had a good job, and we were still trying to figure out what we wanted to do. And so when we just kind of went with it and moved down here. We got the ball rolling. It definitely wasn't all smooth sailing.
Every business owner ever.
Right. In our first 6 months, I probably lost 4 or 5 clients. Had the 2 guys that were working for the company when I started or when I took over, they had both quit. And then I'd also, one of my trailers got stolen from my driveway. And so, trailer with mower, weed eaters, gas cans, everything, and it was, luckily one of my other mowers was in the shop, so I wasn't completely out, but it was just one of those things. It's kind of like a welcome to entrepreneurship, I mean, this is how it goes. And it was just, it was a real gut punch from the start. But luckily we had, I've been very fortunate that, my family's helped out. I've been able to borrow mowers or equipment when I need to, and then we're able to keep working and keep doing jobs, and then we're able to get new equipment and new trailers and kind of keep the ball rolling. And I think that's kind of been the theme with the business ever since we bought it, is you got to roll with the punches, and we've had the business, this will be our 4th year, be 4 years in June. And I think 2 years ago, we had lost the contract to the city, and that was a really big eye-opener and a good lesson for us, because at the time, that was our biggest client. And we had even doubled how much work we were doing for them and how much we were making. So, it went from a $40,000 a year contract to almost $100,000 a year by itself. And, it was nice because that was paying for everything. We were able to put some money away into savings and, take care of employees. And then, whenever it came time to renew contracts, they just went with the next cheapest option. And that was the first time I was like, man, was this a good idea? And that was when I really started having doubts. But it was just like with everything else, just had to keep going, try to find more clients. And I treat it as a blessing in disguise, because it was a lesson that you can't have all your eggs in one basket. Mm-hmm. You've got to be able to diversify, so that if something like this happens, because there was no blame or anything. It was the city had just hired a new city manager, and he's trying to save money where he can, and $100,000 a year on lawn care is a pretty big jab. But
so and we can take this whichever way and however many different ways you want to go with it. So just things I'm taking away and identifying there, and what would make me think of it is like with the city contracts, like government contracts, they're always going to try to go with the lowest guy, mm-hmm. right? Yeah. And a big part of my business is like, you need to provide as much value as possible, mm-hmm. so that they will pay a higher price, right? Yeah. Because there's only one winner in a low cost situation, and that's the Walmarts, right? Like the people like that, they can win on low prices. Yeah. There's no second place prize for that. Mm-hmm. You're just not making money, right?
Well, and you can choose to be one or the other, but you can't be both. You can be a price leader or you can be a quality leader. Mm-hmm. There's some mix in between, but you can't be both.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And with the government contracts, there is no premium. They don't care about the value of it as mm-hmm. much. I'm not saying they don't at all, but like for the most part, they're trying to get the bottom dollar.
Exactly.
So it was a good contract for you, but it was the bottom dollar. Mm-hmm. Just because it was the high price doesn't mean you were making a bunch, and you might have been, and that's fine. So what I would take away from that is identify the customer that will pay those higher prices, mm-hmm. and the government contracts aren't the one.
Oh yeah, no, and that's one thing that because I've talked with like the superintendents, just seeing how things are going, and they kind of jerk you around like, oh yeah, man, this guy's just they don't like him. They might be switching up here pretty soon, so I stay by your phone. And I've gotten so many phone calls like that, and at this point, it's like, dude, I don't even want the contract anymore. Like it's just a pain in the ass at this point. And but like I said, I'm looking at it as a good thing, and so we're moving on from that. And like you said, we're trying to kind of diversify, get into better areas, better service areas. Because I mean, where we're at now, it's very rural, and so a lot of people, they either have their own mower and they can do it themselves, or they've got Joe Brown down the road that'll cut your yard for a case of beer or $20. And I'm sure you probably get it in your industry too. The $20 guy is just relentless, and
Yeah, and so I mean that kind of goes back into the knowing who your customer is. Like not ever, and that's what like I had an issue with in the beginning. Like I wanted everybody, like I don't care if I'm cleaning your dryer vent or driving to Galveston to change out a capacitor. I don't care who it is, as long if they're paying me, like I'm there, And it took me a long time to realize that not everybody's your customer. You don't even want them all to be your customer, right?
Yeah, definitely.
You need to niche down to who you serve the best, who you do the best quality work, and who you can charge the most to, right?
Yeah.
And provide the most value. You're charging more because you're providing more. You're not charging more and providing the same, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, who is that? Is it the person with an acre yard or less? Is it the person with over an acre but less than 5 acres, right? Like, you have to figure out who that is and primarily serve. And I'm not saying there can't be anything else, because there can be some fillers, but your ultimate goal would be to get to serve that customer only, because that's when you're really going to see results, right?
Yeah, it made me think about real early on, and when I got into staffing, my mentor said this to me one time after we had lost a pretty big account. Should just always be trying to replace your top 3 customers. Not that you want them to go away, obviously, but you're not typically going to keep every customer, for your entire career. So, like, always be trying to replace those ones that you're billing the most, because it's just less painful when you do lose one of them, right? And so if you can diversify more, that has been a good thing for our business. We have a couple different business lines that serve different types of customers, and it's helpful. It irons out those big events. Our first year in business, actually, we had a customer go bankrupt and stick us with, I think it was like $130,000 in unpaid invoices, and they were our biggest customer.
Yeah.
They were one of our biggest customers, and it was a valuable lesson.
The whales are nice until the whales die.
Yes.
And they can't pay their bill.
Well, I think so many businesses fall into that 80-20 rule, right? You're getting 80% of your revenue or gross margin dollars out of 20% of your customers, and so then when you do lose one, it's just like it's tough.
Big hit.
So who is that for you? Like, what? I mean, I know you might not even not know the numbers right now, but like, what is your ideal customer?
Honestly, I think we're starting to transition into less of the bigger rural yards and trying to get more into the neighborhoods, because I mean, those kind of customers they're a little bit more picky, but like they also understand what goes into a nice yard, and they know how they want their yard, and a lot of them, they understand that it's not cheap. And so it's a little bit sometimes they're a little bit easier to work with, but I mean, going forward, I think I'd prefer to do get into the neighborhoods and commercial clients. Commercial clients are bread and butter, dude. I mean, they're just you don't have the hassle that you do with residential clients, because they're like, hey man, as long as it looks good, I don't care,
Right.
and just come mow when you say you're going to do it, and we're not going to have any issues. And I mean, it's just easy. And but no, those are the kind of clients that we're kind of leaning towards.
And man, something that we think about a lot, and something that you should be thinking about if you don't, is the drive time aspect of like, if you're in like, so me and him live in the same area. We both live in Cleveland, and it's rural, right? Like you said. So one yard you mow could be 20 to 30 minutes even from the next yard you mow, right?
Dude,
Wow.
We have yards in, like, we mow some Fuel Maxes. One of them's in Liberty, which is probably 30, 45 minutes from my house. And now, like, it pays pretty well because it's a big property. But, I mean, like, I'm probably not making very much money off of that job,
Right.
because of
Yeah,
the
an hour
drive time
windshield time.
getting there. Yeah. and it's not even the cost of getting there. It's just that time,
Right.
you know. And
Yeah, it's unproductive time.
Yeah, and so like we're trying to kind of transition to a point to where we're, you know, we may be driving 30 or 45 minutes to this neighborhood, but we've got 20 houses
Yeah.
that are within, you know, we can park the truck somewhere and drive the mowers to these houses.
That makes
and,
sense.
You know, we can knock out 20 of those houses in a day. And
Because every time you fire up that truck, it's just additional dollars that you know, some people don't even account for, right? All the overhead.
yeah,
Like that was real bad in the beginning of my business. Was like, what is it? What does overhead even mean? You know, like the materials cost me this much, and I'm charging this much, and the difference is this.
Well, when it's just you, yeah.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I carried that even into having employees as well, a little ways, and then I was quickly like, oh wow, there's actual other expenses, you know. And you know, a lot of people that I've told in the beginning, they're like, well, I don't have the overhead yet, so I'm okay. It's like you need to be charging like you have the overhead now, so that you can bring on
It's
the
hard
overhead.
to raise your prices.
It is. Yeah.
It's very difficult
mean,
to raise prices.
Creep it up, you know,
Yeah.
because that way you don't have to make those big jumps.
yeah,
That's what I would do. I always like, if I wanted, let's say you want to bring on this thing that costs $1,000 a month or whatever, you need to incrementally raise your prices until you're there to be able to get that. Then you get it. You don't go get it and then raise your prices. you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like another thing I've noticed is, I mean, with my clients anyway, like if you're upfront with them and you know you tell them like, hey, this with Jobber, we're able to like kind of break down each of our services and say, you know, it's this much because of this, this, and this.
Right.
And you know, a lot of them are a lot more understanding, you know, with that higher price because they understand what's going into it, and so it's easier for us to kind of raise prices a little bit, in which we have to do it the same way, you know, just little by little, because I mean, when it comes to lawn care, you know, I mean, I always look at it as it's kind of like it's a luxury, you know, people don't have to pay for it.
And that's another, that ties back into knowing your customer. Your customer has to be the yard profile that you want, but it also has, like, they have to be somebody that understands the value of what you do, because they don't have the time to do it, they don't want to do it, they're not capable of doing it, and have the ability to pay for it, right? Like, they could understand the value and want you to do it all day long. If they can't actually write the check, then you know what I mean? And there's, of course, you can't like, hey, let me run your credit before we do this, right?
Yeah.
But you can, like, there's areas and neighborhoods that are more likely to be able to, you know, afford that than others. So that's how I would kind of target my marketing, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's kind of, I mean, it kind of sounds bad, but I mean, like, anytime we go see a new house, you know, you kind of look around and, you know, if, you know, you see 2 or 3 tractors and, you know, a nice new Denali and all this other stuff, it's like, okay, these guys should not be nickel and diming me and complaining about every single.
You would think so.
Yeah, you
They
would
are
think
probably
so.
nickel diming you because it's all in credit.
Well, and you know, that's the reason they're able to have all that stuff, because they watch the pennies, you know. But
Well, and a lot of that, man, is like, so yes, I would target your marketing towards those areas that are more likely to be able to afford it. But if somebody calls you, treat them like they can afford it, right? Because you're selling yourself, and like, they're spending the money, right?
Yeah.
If they're calling you and you're going out there, don't treat them differently because like this, you know, it's not a great house, or this is a great house. Because I've seen both ends of the spectrum. I've seen a terrible house and beat down truck, and they pay cash.
yeah,
And I've also seen, you know, $1 million house get denied for a credit approval. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So don't spend their money for them, but sell everybody on the value of what you do, right? And the marketing aspect and who you target, that's whenever I would be a little bit more picky. But like I said, don't change your approach based off of their profile, you know? Because I've, like I said, I've sold some systems that you would never have thought you were going to sell.
Man, don't judge a book by its cover, right?
That's right.
That's a basic principle.
So what? How many employees do you have now?
Right now, it's just me and one other guy.
Okay.
But I mean, as we continue to grow.
And your wife, does she work for the business or
Uh,
outside of the business?
So my wife works for CPS, but she also kind of does the billing and a
Okay.
little bit of
So
the
part
booking
time
and
for the
everything.
business.
Yeah. And so we're, we both do, our parts, and
Yeah.
I think one of the goals of the business right now is to get it to a point to where she doesn't have to work anymore, or she can just stay at home and monitor, Jobber or do some of the advertising, or just some of the little stuff. But yeah, I mean
So what do you think is what's the next step? What needs to happen for you to be able to get to that point?
So when we had the business, I guess like a year ago. So when we bought the business, we did owner financing, and so we last year we had paid the business off, so we were completely debt free. And
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
thank you. So leading up to that, my entire mindset was survive and pay this off, pay off that, and then we'll worry about everything else when we get there. And then it was kind of why like this winter has just been rough, because there's one, it's a Texas winter, and there's just not much you can do. But like I never planned for the future very much, and so whenever finally did get the business paid off, it was like, okay, now what? And so we're trying to change directions and trying to grow the business a little bit. And this year I think is going to be a big learning curve, and I can already tell it's going to be a very educational year for us, just learning how to run a business better, how to make it more profitable and everything. I know, right now the next step is, focusing on, advertising, getting clients. We like I said, we just got Jobber going not too long ago. We got a website built, looks really professional. Check it out, TexasSelectLawn.com. And it just, we're setting the foundation, and so I think a big thing is going to be, us getting into the different areas, getting into these neighborhoods and different stuff like that.
What are you going to do? What is your plans on getting into those areas? So
right now our advertising is, it's on Facebook and making posts, stuff like that. On days where we don't have anything going on, I'll go out into those neighborhoods. Like yesterday, went out into down 242 and went into some of those neighborhoods and just put cards on doors. And now, that's one of those advertisements that I'm not really sure if we're going to continue it, just because, like, yes, we may spend $100 or $150 on 500 business cards, and it's not a lot of money, but yesterday I passed out 150 business cards, and it's one of those things, like, if I don't get a single phone call from one of these, like, maybe we can just utilize that money somewhere else, into better avenues of advertising. But we're right now, it's just passing out business cards, and then we're going to start like boosting our posts on Facebook and trying to get them into a certain area, and then we're trying to set up our Google business profile, and do the geofencing, where we can set our advertising to advertise only in like Kingwood, or only in New Caney or something like that.
So all that's great. The one thing, once you get the Google business page set up, go set it up for local service ads, LSA. It's free.
Mm-hmm.
Now you do have to pay for when the lead comes in.
Yeah.
And right now, like I'm paying around $78 a lead.
Yeah.
So that's for HVAC. It's a lot. Like I don't know if that'll translate over to yours as well.
I was about to say, is that based off of like how much the job is worth?
No, it's more of a when they call, you get charged.
Okay.
So I don't understand the super specifics of it. I had a meeting yesterday with our marketing guy, and we're paying around $78 a lead off of Google LSA, but we get a lot of leads from them.
Mm-hmm.
So it pays for itself, right? And our average ticket's a lot higher than $78.
Yeah.
So it makes sense. Now, in your case, if your average ticket's between $50 and $100, may not be worth paying $78. But I don't. Yeah. It depends on the keywords. It depends on the industry. So I doubt you'd be paying that much for it. But I would. It's something I would turn on and look into.
Yeah.
And just look at other companies that maybe use an LSA. And it's the Google. If you ever see on Google, it's Google guaranteed. That's LSA ads.
Yeah.
So I would look at those and just look at other. Don't click on it because then they're going to get charged. That's. Oh man, we have employees sometimes that need to call the office, and they click on the PPC or the LSA ads, and it charges us every time. We're like, do not call the office from Google. Like, what are you doing, bro?
That's tough.
And some people have done it more than once, and it's like,
we're all in like very different industries, so this may not be applicable, but two, I've found like some of our best businesses come from referrals, right? From a current customer that's happy and can speak positively about the service we provide. And we forget and don't do a great job of it, but we're trying to do better of just asking. Like if they know anybody, if they can refer us to anybody, and we've gotten some of our best clients that way. It's kind of the birds of a feather or whatever it is. Birds of a feather flock together.
yeah.
That if they're a good customer and we have a good relationship with them, it's likely the person they're referring us to probably is similar from a cultural standpoint of like what they expect out of a business relationship and what they expect out of a vendor. And so we don't have like a formal program or anything like that, but I've found just picking up the phone and like talking to our customers usually will lead to good referral partners.
Yeah, and so you mentioned a lot of things that are good marketing strategies, but they cost money. Mm-hmm. Like so in the beginning, you need to focus on everything that doesn't cost money.
Yeah,
and getting reviews is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Just asking people to like, hey, leave us a review on Google, on Facebook, whatever. People actually read reviews, so it's not just I would take reviews very seriously.
Oh yeah. I had started to do the reviews on Facebook, and we had, probably about half of our clients were leaving us reviews and different stuff like that. And the only problem with that is that a good portion of my clients are elderly. And so
they're not busting out their iPhone and
Google
Map app.
And I'll never forget one of them. I was like, hey, if we've been servicing your yard for a while, if we're doing a good job, would you mind going on Facebook, leaving us a review? And she's something like on what now? The face space, something like that. And I was like, oh, never mind.
So there's obviously cases like that, I would make it as easy as possible for them. Like you take away, because if somebody was like, "Hey, will you leave me a review?" I'd be like, "Oh yeah, that's fine." I might forget about it. I might want to leave them a review. I might forget about it. And then like, dude, if I pull out my phone, I'll have the intention of doing something, and I'll see a notification, click on it, and now I'm down some other rabbit hole.
Oh, I'm the same way.
So, like what we did is we have a QR code on the back of a business card.
Yeah.
And it's like, here, scan this. It takes them straight to the Google page to leave the review. You take away and then if they don't do that, or if they just take the card and don't do it, we also have a text message that goes out like, hey, how did we do today? If they rated a 5-star, it'll send them another text with a link to the Google page. If they do 1 or 4-star, then it sends us a text to reach out to them and be like, hey, what
went wrong?
Why isn't it not a 5-star?
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't send them the Google link because you don't want them to leave a bad review.
Yeah.
So, and that's just one of the focus on all the free things you can do for advertisement, because there's a lot, man.
Yeah.
The organic posts on TikTok, on Facebook, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts. Just post them for free, and you'll build a following that way. And it's somewhat localized. It's not. You'll probably get some viewers out of your service area, but it'll get people talking. Not saying don't boost it, but you don't have to boost it to get traction. But be posting all the time.
Yeah,
a few times a day.
I was about to say, I think that's my biggest issue is just forgetting to post. You know, and like sometimes it's like, oh well, I didn't do any yards today. I don't have any pictures to post or anything like that. But like,
well, pictures are great if you don't have anything else. Videos are like, that's the engaging stuff, right? Yeah. So I would post a lot of videos.
Yeah, I know. I had posted one video on TikTok, and it was a video of me doing the edging at a property, and it actually came out looking really good. And you know, I edited everything on CapCut, and and we sped up the video so it wasn't too long. But I mean, that was probably the best video we had, you know, and it was it was like all the videos you see on TikTok. You know, it was up there with Spencer from SB Mowing, and it was it did pretty well. But
it got a lot of views.
Yeah, I think that one, I want to say it got over 1,000 views. But and I mean with that stuff, that just comes back on me, you know, being forgetful and honestly at times being lazy.
So do you? I know you have the Jobber, and you probably have a calendar, like a schedule and a calendar in there. Yeah. Do you use a calendar for anything else besides your jobs? Like, do you schedule a time on a Google Calendar, like, to do other things?
Probably not in the way that you're saying, but like if I have events coming up or something that I need to do, like I know I've got one in my schedule for Thursday to go to a networking event.
Yeah. You know what's funny, man?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that whenever I first kind of started getting into business, and I'm not talking about like I had a business, but I was like the technician and I was doing all that. Once I started getting on the back end, and then you have meetings with other people about the business, like your CPA or like just everybody uses their Google Calendar. And it's like, oh, let me send you an invite for that. Like one time I just went to go eat lunch with him, and he sent me a Google invite, and I was thinking, this is just odd, you know, people use their Google. And then that, like, from around that time to now, like, I use if I go get a snack, it's on my Google Calendar, you know.
I use Outlook, but yeah, I count on myself to forget. Mm-hmm. So, like, I set up systems. So if you look at my calendar, it looks like I have meetings from, like, 5 in the morning to 6 p.m., but it's like everything's on it. My son's baseball practice, the other son's jiu-jitsu thing, you know, things I'm doing, a lunch. Like, I put everything on there, and I put that stuff too. I calendar time where it's like, hey, that's not a meeting or a thing I have to go do, but I know I need to spend 45 minutes every week working on content, because that way if I have it on Friday and I'm done with it, next week I'll have content to post. Yeah. So like I calendar those activities, because if I don't calendar them, I'm the same way. Like, I'm just going to forget. Yeah. When COVID happened, our business, like most businesses, dropped off a cliff. Like, literally, like within a week, you know, everything shut down. Yeah. And we hired a marketing guy. My buddy Donnie Gupton came in, and he said something that was on the surface kind of basic, but was like pretty profound to me in that moment. And he said, you should think about your business as a marketing business that just so happens to recruit. It's like we're a recruiting firm or a staffing agency. And it just was like, it switches your mindset to like look for marketing opportunities. Like I would forget, like I had a meeting with a customer, we were at their building, it was an opportunity to like just do something silly, like take a selfie with like their sign in the background, or like just little things to like give us reasons. Because if people can't find you and they don't know you, they're not going to buy from you. I mean, people buy from somebody for one of three reasons. They think you're smarter than them at whatever it is that you do, they trust you, or they like you. Yep. So like you got to have one, if not more than one of those bullet points. And if you're not doing content or marketing, it's really hard to share your story and for people to get to know you and to find you.
Yeah,
that's right.
I think that's one thing I'm learning pretty quick, is that word of mouth really only gets you so far, and especially when you start getting into bigger areas. I mean,
it does. Word of mouth only gets you so far, but are you maximizing that? Because word of mouth is your cheapest form of
free leads. $99.
It's free, so you need to maximize that.
Yeah.
Like, man, like that's your best and your cheapest form of getting customers.
Yeah.
So go all in on that, and then start putting in the paid advertising, which you need, right?
Yeah.
And then maximize all your free social media. That's where I would start.
And what is like maximizing your word of mouth? What does that look like? Just like, hey, tell your neighbors.
The
tell your
Google
friends.
reviews asking for, hey, do you know 3 people that could benefit from my services, or you know, just questions like that.
Yeah.
That's
Most people don't want to ask for help, but I think when you do, good things normally come from it because it puts you in a vulnerable position, right? Like asking someone for help.
Yeah.
But I think by and large, if you work with good people, they'll want to be helpful. If you're doing them a good service and you have a good relationship with them, again, some of our best business partnerships have come from just asking for a referral or asking for an introduction, something of that nature.
for sure. And maximizing your social media and just put content. And this is something I'm doing recently, is just really putting out a bunch of content.
Yeah.
We've been really bad at it for a long time, and it's because we've been busy with other aspects of the company.
Yeah.
But you have to. It's one of those things you're not going to blow up overnight. So you have to just kind of just keep putting fuel to that small fire until it starts to grow. Yeah. One thing you can do because one of the things is like, well, I don't have any content ideas, right?
Yeah.
Do you have Chat GPT on your phone? Type in video content ideas for lawn care companies, and it will come up with 20 things that you can make content about tomorrow. And it's I actually did that last night. I was just like ideas for HVAC, I was like, dude, that's so good. I'm gonna do that.
I've been using Grok, the Twitter one.
Yeah, Grok. I've heard about it. I think you told me about it.
Yeah. So Grok it has access to like the internet, like the current internet, whereas ChatGPT, I think, it has access to 2021 and before.
Oh,
So
really?
it doesn't access like up to date current things. So if you go ask about the news or something, like it's not going to know,
Really?
or like current trends and things like that. Yeah. Even on the paid version, I don't think it's only up to date to 2021.
I might need to switch.
There you go. Grok, free advertising. I called it Twitter. X.
Yeah, X. Yeah.
Yeah.
So something I thought about earlier. So you want to maximize your free marketing, your referrals, your organic, not paid social media, but also, what is the point of getting new customers if you're not maximizing the customers that you already have, right?
Yeah.
That's why we put off for so long any form of paid advertising, is because we were like, we're not maximizing the customers we do have. Like, we might go to a customer's house and, our best ticket of the day is $100, $200, maybe $300 at the most. And it's like, that's not maximizing it. So we really dialed in on our service call process, our sales process, creating the most value. Mm-hmm. And then once our average ticket started to climb, then we were like, now we can justify paying a portion of that. Because for every lead you get, it's just a portion of your average ticket just getting chipped away.
Yeah.
So if your average ticket isn't even that high, it's still going to be chipped away the same amount.
Yeah.
So you can't afford to lose, 40% of your average ticket to that lead. So get your ticket prices as high as you can, right?
Yeah. And that's, kind of one of the things that we're hoping to change this year is that, with anytime we go out and do a job, we're trying to not just do the lawn care. We're going to be trimming the hedges. We'll pull the weeds out of your flower bed. We'll do some pressure washing. We're here, so why not? And I think that's one thing that we need to get better. And it really it comes back to me because I've never been good at sales, and I like what you said about like we're a marketing company that just happens to cut grass.
Yeah.
And
You're a business owner. You better get comfortable with sales, my friend.
I was just about to say, like, I've never thought about it that way, but it's so true, because like without marketing, you're just, what are you doing?
I agree that as a business owner, you do need to get good at sales and comfortable with it. But at the same time, if you don't like it, and if it's like, hey, look, I know I'm not good at it, because my first thought is like, you need to be the one doing all the sales, and you need to just hire out I would call it the production side, and that's people cutting the grass. maybe it's one of those things where you need to, if you're comfortable with that, maybe hire a salesperson to go out and do that.
Yeah.
And they work mainly off commission. So, and I don't know much about that industry and how that structure would work, but it's something to think about. Unless you're like, hey, look, I like the sales, I'm just not that good at it, then just, practice. Just do it.
I was about to say, I think that's the big thing that I need to learn is just doing more of it. Because like even yesterday, going and handing out business cards, there's still that little voice in the back of my mind that's like, oh, I kind of hope nobody's home because I know if I talk to somebody, I'm just going to mess it up and sound like an idiot. And but it's like you said, it's just I need to do more of it.
Role play, man. Like we do role play all the time, and we do it, and like nobody likes it.
No,
dude.
Everybody.
When I first brought it up to my team, everybody was looking at me like, "Oh God, this again."
But it makes you better because it is more
reps.
awkward. At least for me, I can go to a live customer and I'll sound 10 times better. If I'm role playing between me and you, I'm gonna fumble around and it's gonna be because it's like but if you can get to where you're clean on the role play, when you do go to a live customer, it's gonna be there's nothing that can stop you, right?
Yeah, it's reps. All it is reps. Just getting more and more reps.
Yeah.
And
work on scripts. Like you can put together like what's your elevator pitch, and get like that dialed in. There's all sorts you could ask Grok or ChatGPT, like to help you like define your brand. What are your brand uniques? And you can add that stuff into an elevator pitch, and that way you have it. And you say it over. You get all those reps of saying it over and over again, and that way when you do deliver it, it's smooth.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure you use me if you want. Like come to my house and use a live environment where it's not just a little conference room or like your house. Go to somebody else's house and like, hey, can I practice this? We bring my guys to my house all the time, and I tell Callie, I'm like, all right, you're the customer, and he, and then they go through that whole deal, and like we'll spend an hour just redoing the intro, just his little intro, and it's just like, okay, now hey, let's tweak it here, let's do it again, like hey, you didn't say this or you didn't smile, like all those little soft skills are so important. And that's something to drill, man. Yeah. Like in jiu-jitsu, they say drillers are killers.
Yeah.
The same exact thing in sales and that kind of thing. You have to drill it because if you
muscle
don't,
memory.
It's at the point where you just can't get it wrong because you've done it so many times.
Yeah, definitely. And yesterday I'd called my brother. And I texted him before, and I was like, "Hey, we're gonna do some role playing," and he was like, "Okay." And I was like, "Try to keep it professional. I want to be serious." And he's like, "No promises." And I was like, "Oh, great." And like it started off good. One of the things I do got to work on is trying not to have such a professional voice, and trying not to sound, I don't know, too much unlike myself. But it went well, but there were definitely some fumbling around, but
So one thing that we haven't even trained on this yet, but the management team, we've drilled this a couple times between ourselves because that's another thing, we want to get it right before we try to teach it to the team, because if we can't even get it right, if we don't know it, how are we expected them to get it right?
Right.
So what we did is in the intro, talking about just that intro of like how you meet the customer, and then you're like, hey, is my van parked okay? Right. And that's something you could take away because you're driving a vehicle too.
Yeah.
Hey, is my truck parked okay? Is it's not going to block anybody in, right? And like one thing, you probably don't do this, but don't ever park in the driveway.
Oh,
right?
No.
So hey, is my vehicle parked okay? Just want to make sure, And then you do the introductory, and we actually go in the house. You may or may not do that. One thing that we're going to start training them to do is pick out something in the house that's like maybe you can get on their level with, right? Like
to relate to the person.
To relate, if they have the bass boat in the driveway, I'd be like, dude, I love that bass boat, and it's a Phoenix, blah, 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 whatever. If you really like the Astros, like, oh man, I really liked your Astros jersey. Just pick something out that you can relate to them with.
Oh yeah, because people get excited talking about that kind of
stuff. They get excited about it,
Mm-hmm.
and two, that kind of breaks that like
They're
weird.
comfortable with you now.
Yeah.
They're comfortable,
Yeah.
and you're comfortable with them because now it's talking between friends.
Yeah.
It's not like a customer.
The next time you interact with somebody that does this, like once you hear it, you can't not like.
Yeah.
You see it when someone shows up at your house or at your business, wherever. You're like, oh, that person's been trained. Like,
For sure, man.
it's really interesting.
It's cool, and I'm excited about rolling that out because, like, customers are gonna be like, "Wow," like they're not used to that level of service.
Yeah.
They're used to somebody, well, what's going on?
Yep.
And then, oh, well, show me to the unit, I'll get it fixed, and then they're in and out of there in 20 minutes. They might have fixed the issue. For one, they didn't look at all the other issues in the house, and then two, how can you provide value in 20 minutes? Like, our introduction takes 20 minutes.
Interesting.
So, and that's, I'm getting a little bit more into HVAC's, side of it, but
that's
there's
like-
some takeaways there.
I was about to say, like, that's a big thing in all of our businesses,
Yeah.
And I feel like the clients are more likely to come back to you, if they have that feeling that, you guys actually care, and
They
you
do.
guys are actually, I don't know, I guess invested in them, and I feel like you're definitely more likely to get calls back, get further jobs and different things like that.
Yeah. So, man, I think one of the things because we can talk all day long about like where you're going to be 2 or 3 years from now, and like when you get to the certain point. But like the most helpful things and what I think about is like, what's the next most actionable step that I can take to get there? Because like, oh yeah, you need to be spending this much per click on PPC, and this is like, dude, don't even think about that yet.
Yeah.
Think about like, what are the things I can leave today and go do
Yeah.
and put it into effect, right? For one, it's just knowing your numbers, period. Like I was just telling you this last time, that's the one thing I would tell everybody, because it took me, we're 6 years in, and I would say 5 to 5.5 to really get my numbers accurate.
Yeah.
So do you have QuickBooks? Do you have all that kind of stuff set up?
We were using the Square. We're solely using Jobber now, but we do have like some generic pricing for things, and then we have ways that we can price like all of our jobs. With the bigger yards, we charge like $2 for every 1,000 square feet.
So that would be more job costing, which you definitely need to know that, and that's where everybody kind of starts. But what I really mean is like looking at like a profit and loss statement of like top line revenue, and then cost of goods sold, overhead expenses, and net profit. Right? If like you need to have a accounting software like QuickBooks Online is probably the cheapest and the easiest to get going on that if you don't have it already. But you need to look at that profit and loss statement at least monthly, if not more.
Yeah.
But they have to be accurate numbers. Like you can't be looking at inaccurate data or you're making wrong decisions, right?
Yeah, definitely. And we, we don't have anything in QuickBooks. I work with my brother a lot, and we do a lot of things in spreadsheets. But
Yeah.
We track, our profit per minute for each yard, how much it's costing us to get there, what our overhead expenses are, and now I do need to be better about knowing more of the specifics of each of those things.
So the number one number that I would focus on is your gross margin.
Yeah.
And that's what you sold the job for minus the direct expenses it cost you, which is labor, materials, and you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah, I got you.
And that's not even like, I wouldn't put gas into that because gas is more or less an overhead expense.
Mm-hmm.
Like the what does it cost you for this exact job, right? And then what's left over from that. So if you charge $1,000, your direct expenses are $500, then that's a 50% gross margin.
Yeah.
And then so your overhead and your profit has to be able to fit within that 50%.
Yeah.
And if it can, then great. If not, you need to change something, right?
Yeah.
I
Would
think
you
you and
agree?
I talked about this. Yeah, I know what our revenue is on a weekly or monthly or annual basis, but I don't really pay attention to it. It's all gross margin dollars because, I guess if you had like some business you were scaling and you were going to sell it, and so you're really like driving top line revenue or something, but we can make more money if I pay attention to the gross margin dollars as, say, a $3 million business versus if I'm focused just on top line and growing really fast and as a $5 million business, for instance. Like, it's all about the gross margin dollars. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you'll know quickly, too, if you've mispriced something. Like, it'll be glaringly obvious.
Yeah.
That's right. And then you have your overhead dollars, and then if your if monthly you need to cover, yearly you need to cover $100,000 in overhead, then at a 50% gross margin, what revenue do you need to make to break even?
Yeah.
And then after that point, it's all the gross margin is to the net profit after that point.
Yeah.
Right?
Because as a business owner, that's all. I mean, we talk about gross margin. I mean, net is really what matters. That's how you get paid, right? But,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important.
Net's obviously the most important. I would say the first one to start with is gross margin.
Yeah.
You need to know that one because that's the easiest to calculate. Because it might take you a while to figure out your true net profit, right?
Yeah.
But
And I think that's, like I said, I mean, that's one of the many things that, we just have to get better at. And I say we, and I mean, it's mainly me, but, learning that side of the business and how to become more profitable. And I mean, for starters, like what everything means and, how you get all of these numbers and everything. And because, I mean, like before this year, I mean, we were running just the most basic business ever, go up to a yard and it looks about like $100. And I mean, and so, I mean, now, we need to spend more time going over, I guess, the logistics of.
Have you, I think I sent you a video. I'm not sure. Have you heard of Mike Andes on YouTube?
I think you did send me that.
Watch that guy.
Yeah.
Watch him. He knows, he's in your industry and he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah. There was, I watched one of his videos and it kind of.
Watch all of them, bro.
I was about to say.
All of them. Study it. Like,
and that's a great thing about the day and age that we're like living in.
Oh, yeah.
Just there's so much information. There's somebody like that in every single industry that you can go out, use, Chat GPT or Grok to search, find those people. And it's wild how much information is out there now for you to teach yourself on your own time as opposed to going to business school or.
Yeah.
So.
There's no reason not to know now. You know what I mean?
There's no excuse. Yeah.
That's right.
Do you think, is there enough information to where it's almost pointless to like go back to college and get some form of business degree? Because that's something that I have thought about.
College is interesting
in the future. Because like after high school, I went to college for a little over a semester, and I didn't know what I was doing there. Wasn't there for the right reasons, and so it was just kind of a waste. But like if I went back with the idea of I want to learn how to run a business, learn the inner workings of a business, and I was able to stay focused on it. Like,
I think it depends. College right now, and it's going to change. It's going to change quick because of AI. Mm-hmm. College is worth it if it's a job or a profession, in my opinion, that needs it. Like you can't go be a doctor and not go to med school. Yeah. You can't go be an attorney and not go to law school. You're probably not going to get an engineering job without an engineering degree. But business, like, man, I've got a lot of education, for better or for worse. I have a bachelor's degree and an MBA. They were real expensive. And we talked about this before. I learned more in my first year as a business owner than I did through whatever that was, 6 or 7 years of higher education.
Yeah.
I think higher education is good, that it can help you learn how to think about things differently. It can change your perspective. But for business, I mean, you can go.
Yeah, no better teacher than being out in the field.
Well, not only that, but you can go get so much information for free now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't need a business degree to own a business. You don't, you can go, whatever it is that you're wanting to learn about, whether it's accounting and finance or learning how to read a P&L, you can go use any of those tools online now and go find all that information.
Yeah.
And so it feels to me, I got a 5-year-old and a 9-year-old boy. It feels to me by the time they're ready to go out of high school and do whatever they want to go do, the jobs that require a degree are going to be significantly diminished compared to what they are right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I would say don't do it.
Yeah. And I mean, and yeah, that's just one of the many things that's just kind of been in the back of my mind. Like, I mean, you know, it'd be a little bit more education, just kind of teach you a little bit more about running a business.
I think at the point you're in right now, it's less what you don't know, and it's just taking action.
Yeah.
It's I think you know the things, and if you don't, like you have the people around you that know.
Yeah.
You need to just take action on it and just go. Like I was going to say this earlier about the 150 cards you handed out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I saw this. It was a video. You know who Alex Hormozy is?
Mm-hmm.
So he's big on YouTube and in the entrepreneur business space, and he was saying that he did a direct mail campaign of, I can't remember the number, 3,000 direct mail, and it didn't really go well, right? He didn't get many leads off of it. And he was telling one of his mentors, like, man, I'm thinking about not doing direct mail anymore because of this. And his mentor was like, well, I tested 300,000 direct mailers before I decided to. and he was like, before I decided to abandon that campaign or not, he was like, it's not what you're doing. It's just how the volume you're doing.
Yeah.
So 150 is in the door knocking space is a little to nothing.
I was about
you need
to
to be
say,
doing 150,000.
Yeah.
You know?
And like, even when I was doing that, like, I mean, it felt like a lot because, I mean, I was out there all day long, you know, just walking up and down these neighborhoods. But, like, I did not even scratch the surface of how many houses are out there, you know. And, I mean, it's just, I agree completely.
And for one, I've heard the door knocking thing is really, really, really tough to get in, like to be successful at. I've never tried door knocking before, so.
I haven't either, and I think that's partially just because I just know I would, you know, kind of stammer and stumble, and I think, I mean, that comes back to what we were saying earlier.
I've been close though. I've been close to being like, well, you just need to get out there and do it, man. You know, like, because you don't. And I've thought about just hiring a guy that's like, hey, look, for every lead you get, we'll pay you a certain amount for every time somebody calls.
Just
like
a kid out there hustling.
Just a kid, just somebody out there that's not making a lot of money.
It must
but
work because someone knocks on my door almost every day.
Really?
I live in a huge neighborhood. I mean, I don't know how many homes are in it, but if you combine my neighborhood with the other like master plan communities around it, it's got to be more than 10,000 homes. I mean, it's a huge area.
Is it the same guy or just a bunch of different services?
No, it's everything under the sun, from pest control to solar panels, lawn services. It's everything.
pest control guy got me.
Yeah, it's just there's a ton of them. And so the point being, like, if that many people are doing it, I would assume they're having some degree of success. Mm-hmm. And maybe it comes down to like how they're doing it. Like, this is a stupid little thing that we did, but it was effective. A while back, we used to have these mailers, and it was like a handwritten note that was inside this thing. And they were real, like, it was a short list of people we were doing these to. It wasn't like a mass campaign. But the way we found out to get the executive we were trying to get to open it, is like it had to look different. It couldn't look like it was a mass printed thing.
Yeah.
So my wife and I would literally be writing the address, like handwriting on these envelopes. And then we would find like the most ridiculous stamp we could find. So if it's like July, we'd go buy like Christmas stamps. Or if it's Christmas time, we'd go buy like Buzz Lightyear stamps.
Yeah.
Just to like try to get the thing to get open. So like now, if it gets to whomever's in the mailroom at that business, or it gets to the person's executive assistant, the chances of it just getting pitched, because, you know, it's not a stamp with an address. The address wasn't printed. Like, someone wrote in pen on those envelopes, and then there was that dumb stamp. And we had like a pretty good return rate, much better than like industry average returns on mailers. So sometimes it's not what you're doing. It's like, well, how are you doing it? And like, how can you do it different from that guy? You know, if the one guy, a lot of guys don't even knock on our door. I work from home a lot. So like, I see them. They come up and they just stick a business card like in your door, and you don't even we don't use our front door. I always go through the garage. So that thing could sit out there for like a week or two.
That's like throwing a paper airplane and just hoping it lands on his driveway.
Right.
You know?
Versus the guy who actually knocks on the door, or the guy like, you know, and so what does your business card look like? Or there was this one truck I used to see driving around. It was a concrete company. Can't remember the name of it. But the thing on the back of his pickup said, "Your driveway's smiling because it just got laid." It's like, okay. Like, some people that's probably going to be offensive towards, right?
Yeah.
But there's going to be a segment of people that are like, That's the guy I'm calling when I need concrete.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's one of those things that I haven't put a lot of thought into, but I've always kind of wished that I had some kind of a name. Like whenever you had Cry AC and you had the Don't Fry, Call Cry. Every time I passed his sign, dude, I was like, that is the best thing I've ever heard. That's freaking awesome. Yeah. And like, I don't know. It was just, I don't know. That always stuck out to me. You know, it's.
Now we have AC mishap, call ASAP.
Yeah.
I like it.
Both are good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. So we're coming up on the time here. So I think the 3 takeaways are going to be to figure out ways to provide value to your current customers so you can charge the prices that you need to charge. Take advantage of all the free marketing you can before you go to the paid, because if I wouldn't even try the paid until you know you've done everything you can free. Yeah. And then you just got to hustle, man. You just got to take action and do it like, because it's great. And I've done it so many times. I've been to conferences. I've watched YouTube videos, podcasts, and it's like I write notes about what I should do, and then they just sit in the notepad, and you don't do it.
There's a great quote. I don't know who said it. It wasn't me, so I'm plagiarizing. But it's something like, everything you're looking for is on the other side of discomfort.
Yep. I like that.
And I think that's very applicable to our businesses. At the end of the day, all 3 of our businesses do very different things, but they're simple businesses. They're service businesses.
I like it, man. Anything else you have before we get off?
Nothing I could think of. I had a couple of questions, but we'll get that another time.
Yeah, no problem, man.
But no, thank you guys for having me on.
Thanks for coming, man.
This was fun and exciting.